The Outlaws 2, the Roundup begins with a flashback to 2008 in the Vietnamese capital, Ho Chi Minh City, where at that time, a young South Korean businessman named Choi Yong-gi was on a visit to meet his business partner who was in the city. However, Yong-gi seems quite desperate to come there because he doesn't really know his business partner, a man named Kang Hae-sang. They are scheduled to meet somewhere to discuss their business. Yong-gi actually came there with a friend. However, he is asked to get into Hae-sang's car alone. At first, everything seemed normal, and they chatted casually. But then, Hae-sang orders his men to beat up Yong-gi, who finally begins to realize that he is one of the most wanted fugitives in South Korea for committing a series of crimes. He turns out to just want to trap Yong-gi and target his wealth. Meanwhile, in a district in the city of Seoul, the local community was shocked by the violence and hostage-taking perpetrated by a man against a woman who was an employee of a convenience store. A policeman named Dong-yoon, assigned to handle the incident, seems overwhelmed because the man is holding a knife and threatening hostages. Not long after, a burly and muscular man appeared and immediately dealt with the hostage incident after successfully knocking the culprit off quite easily. He is Ma Seok-do, a deputy leader of the major crimes unit at Geumcheon police station in Seoul. Even though Seok-do was able to handle the incident without any deaths, his action of paralyzing the criminal was even considered excessive and violent, so everyone gossiped about him. Besides that, his photo became news headlines in various mass media as if he had made the fatal mistake of having caused the criminal to be rushed to the hospital due to a fatal wound from his punch. After that, Seok-do was assigned by the team leader of the major crimes unit, a man named Jeon Il-man, to go to Vietnam to extradite a suspect named Yoo Jong-hoon, who was surrendered and is now in prison under the supervision of the Vietnamese police. At first, Seok-do refused orders from his superior because he was not good at English. However, Il-man says that he will go there to accompany him, even though he is not good at English or Vietnamese. Long story short, they finally arrive in Ho Chi Minh City, where they meet some minor criminals who fled to Vietnam to avoid legal proceedings in their country. Some recognize Seok-do as a tough cop who won't hesitate to use violence to catch criminals. In fact, even though Seok-do is currently out of reach of his jurisdiction, he intends to catch and punish the criminals. However, Il-man immediately stops him, as they have more important business to attend to. The next day, they visit the South Korean General Counsel's office in Vietnam to get information about Jong-hoon. There, Seok-do sees many cases of missing persons from South Korea. The General Counsel at the office told them that every month, at least 30,000 South Korean tourists visit Vietnam, and only 70% of them return to South Korea. Seok-do then asks about Jong-hoon giving himself up because he thinks it's bizarre, considering he is a dangerous criminal, so he wouldn't turn himself in voluntarily. Without further ado, Seok-do and Il-man met Jong-hoon so they could ask him directly. However, since Jong-hoon seems to belittle the two of them and is reluctant to provide further information, Seok-do is forced to interrogate him using a bit of force, as per his trademark, to get him to speak up. Threatened by Seok-do, Jong-hoon finally reveals his reason for surrendering voluntarily, which was none other because of a man named Jong-do, who threatened to kill him. After getting Jong-do's residential address from Jong-hoon, Seok-do and Il-man rush off to meet him. However, to their surprise, they find Jong-do lifeless in his apartment. They then return to Jong-hoon and tell him about that incident, where they assume that he has been killed by Jong-hoon. However, Jong-hoon denies the accusations and reveals that he, Jong-do, and one of their friends named Ki-bak were Kang Hae-sang's gang who kidnapped Yong-gi. After getting quite a lot of ransom, the three of them fight with Hae-sang, who is unfair in distributing the ransom rations, for which he gets way more money than them. Yong-gi saw this, then took the opportunity to run away. They immediately chased him and managed to catch him. Knowing that his life is in danger, Yong-gi offers them a deal in which he will pay much more than the ransom. But then, Hae-sang gets there and instantly kills him and Ki-bak. Hae-sang threatens to kill Jong-hoon and Jong-do if they keep arguing about the ransom. They then wrapped Yong-gi and Ki-bak's bodies in plastic and buried them somewhere. But after that incident, Hae-sang betrayed them and ordered someone else to kill Jong-hoon and Jong-do, so Jong-hoon decided to surrender voluntarily for protection. After getting the information, Seok-do and Il-man immediately asked their colleagues in the Seoul police for help in finding information about Yong-gi and Hae-sang. With help from the local police, Seok-do and Il-man finally find the bodies of Yong-gi and Ki-bak. After that, Seok-do contacts his informant in Vietnam to find out where Hae-sang is. Soon after, they finally get information about the base camp of Hae-sang's henchmen in Vietnam. Even though he's alone, Seok-do can threaten them all and get information about Hae-sang's whereabouts. On the way there, Seok-do gets information from one of his colleagues in the police that Yong-gi's father, Choi Chun-bak, never reported the kidnapping of his son. Hearing this, he concludes that Chun-bak was involved in his son's murder. Elsewhere, Hae-sang arrives at his house and sees Chun-bak's men who are already there to take Yong-gi's money. However, he doesn't just let them go and chooses to confront them. Even when he is alone, he can beat them all quite easily. He then asks one of them to call Chun back. Hae-sang informs Chun back that he's coming to kill him and take the money that should be his. Not long after, Seok-do and Il-man finally arrive at his house and are shocked to see the bodies of Chun back's men lying there. Unexpectedly, Hae-sang is still there and immediately attacks Il-man, seriously injuring him. Seok-do and Hae-sang then engage in a fierce battle. However, Hae-sang finally manages to escape. At the hospital, Il-man, being treated for his wound, asks Seok-do to avenge Hae-sang for stabbing him. After that, Seok-do meets one of Chun back's surviving men and gets information about Hae-sang and Chun back. Not long after, the Vietnamese police visited Seok-do and Il-man and ordered them to return to South Korea because they had created some chaos in Vietnam. Hearing that, Il-man protested because he wanted to take revenge on Hae-sang. However, Seok-do says they will return to South Korea soon because, as it turns out, Hae-sang will go back to resolve the issue with Chun back. Arriving in Seoul, Seok-do rushes to meet the former crime lord, Yi-soo, who was once captured by him. Yi-soo, a smuggler, has information about the transportation routes usually used by illegal immigrants or fugitives like Hae-sang. After being threatened by Seok-do, he finally gives information about an unlicensed ship that will dock that night. Seok-do and his partner, Dong-yoon, rush to the pier, check the CCTV footage for Hae-sang's whereabouts, and learn that he has arrived in South Korea and stole a car to carry out his stunt. They rush to report the matter to their superior, but they get scolded for causing chaos in Vietnam. Meanwhile, two men, Jang Soon-chul and Jang Ki-chul, were entering the airport area. They were criminals known as the Jang brothers. Seok-do and Il-man then attend Yang-hee's funeral and meet his mother, who looks devastated over her son's death. Not long after, Chun back arrives there and meets Hae-sang, who openly tells Chun back that he was the one who killed Yang-hee. Hearing this, he orders his men to kill Hae-sang while he flees. However, he can easily kill all of them. Elsewhere, the Jang brothers get their act together and manage to kidnap Chun back. The cops on duty keep an eye on him in the parking lot and try to catch up to Hae-sang's gang, but they lose track of them. Shortly afterward, Hae-sang called Chun back's wife, Kim In-suk, and demanded a ransom of $2 billion while sending a video of the torture he did to her husband. With Seok-do's direction, In-suk manages to conduct negotiations that are quite profitable for the police to arrest Hae-sang and his gang and save her husband. After reaching an agreement, Seok-do and Il-man rush to find the right driver to take In-suk because Hae-sang already recognizes the two of them and the other police officers. Then, Seok-do asks Yi-soo to be the driver because he is an ex-criminal, so he won't be suspected. On the other hand, Hae-sang and his gang are working on plans, including smuggling $2 billion in cash into China. He then orders the Jang brothers to follow In-suk so they don't get tricked by her. The next day, the Jang brothers are near Chun back's house. They see In-suk and Yi-soo entering the car with a large suitcase. Halfway through the trip, Yi-soo gets tempted by the large suitcase full of cash and plans something. However, she thinks Yi-soo is one of the police officers, so she obeys everything he says. Meanwhile, Dong-yoon, who managed to locate Chun back in an abandoned factory, rushes to save and take him away. But then, Hae-sang appears and directly stabs him. Knowing that the place has been surrounded by police, he decides to run away. Not long after, Chun back and Dong-yoon are rushed to the hospital for intensive care. In another place, the Jang brothers stop Yi-soo's car, forcing Yi-soo to take an escape route to the underground parking area, where he asks In-suk to get out of the car, and he rushes away from the car park. At that place, while running away with a large suitcase full of cash, Jang Ki-chul then got out of the car to chase In-suk, who fled into the shopping center, while his brother chased Yi-soo in his car. Soon-chul calls Hae-sang and tells him that Yi-soo has taken their money away, making him go after Yi-soo. Ki-chul finally manages to catch In-suk and is about to kill her. However, Seok-do gets there and immediately beats him to a pulp. Elsewhere, Hae-sang and Yi-soo get into a chase. Then, he crashes into Yi-soo's car. Yi-soo manages to escape with the large suitcase. But, it doesn't take long for Hae-sang to get information about him, who is a criminal like himself. After intercepting Yi-soo at a pier when he was about to flee to China, Hae-sang then scurried away from there by bus. Unexpectedly, Yi-soo calls Seok-do and tells him about the bus Hae-sang was riding. When the bus enters the tunnel, the police surround the bus, and Seok-do asks the other passengers to get off the bus. Seok-do and Hae-sang finally meet again, where they are involved in a fierce battle they have not had time to finish while in Vietnam. Even though Hae-sang is tough and able to take on Seok-do, in the end, Seok-do wins the fight, even without getting hurt. After that, it's revealed that Yi-soo had no intention of taking the money away because he just followed the scenario Seok-do had planned to catch Hae-sang and his gang. Because according to Seok-do, it would be easier for them to catch Hae-sang if it involved ex-criminals like Yi-soo. After successfully solving the case, Seok-do and his team celebrate their success with drinks. The moral that can be learned from this movie is that even though we have very strong physical strength, we must never forget the importance of using our brain intelligence and relationships to solve problems or achieve the goals we hope for. However, having a team that can be trusted is more important than other things.